Danny, I know you got multiple fighters coming up here on Fight Island, but we got to start with the main event on Wednesday. Michael Chiesa has returned to the octagon after about a year, and I know he's had some injuries, did some other things, but what's this road back to the cage been like for him?
Yeah, I think the last year's been good for Mike. The pandemic allowed him to take some time off, not really try to force him into a fight that didn't really make sense. He had some injuries that he had to recover from. He had surgery that he was able to take, the appropriate time to heal from. He did a little bit of snowboarding, did a lot of the ESPN desk work, which I think is good for him. It allows him to keep his mind in fighting while not being in fight camp. And then obviously, the Magny fight came up and we loved it. And, I think we tried to get him in there in December and, Sean kind of just said, January makes more sense. And we didn't know it was going to be Fight Island at that point. But it worked out well for Mike. He was able to take time to recover and be ready for the fight.
Yeah, and during that time off, he's kind of rose to prominence as one of the main analysts for ESPN, working on the desk and everything. How does that come about when you work with the UFC or ESPN? Is that something you pitch to them? Do they come to you? Just how do you kind of get one of your clients into that position?
Yeah, I think from a manager side, we talk to the fighters and kind of see, what they're looking at doing outside of fighting. And obviously for Michael, he'd done the Venator show a couple years ago with John Morgan and really liked it. And he's done some stuff in the Northwest as far as like color commentary. And he's done he did a couple shows with, I think he did Fox or something previously. Really hit or miss, not consistent. And then when ESPN, he's done a couple things, a couple death shows with ESPN, and it's really on us to really push to and implore Zach that this is something he really wants to do and spends a lot of time on it, and he does a lot of studying for the fights, and it's good for him. It allows him to keep his mind in fighting outside of when he has a camp, right? And he's breaking down fighters and breaking down video, and allows him when he does have a fight to break down fighters a little bit better that he's matched up against.
Yeah, it seems like the guys in that role, just their fight IQ in general goes up. We've seen it with like Felder, DC, et cetera, et cetera. But he told me last week that he loves doing the desk stuff, but he'd love to do cage side commentary one day. It seems like either way, he's solidified himself kind of in that rotation for ESPN. As a manager, we talk about what's coming after fighting for these guys when they retire and stuff. It seems like he's going to be in a good spot. How happy does that make you to know that obviously fighting is the priority, but it seems like life after is going to be good to him?
Yeah, I think, as a manager, we always try to help the guys figure out what they want to do, right? A fight career anywhere from, 2 to 3 to 10 years, 15 years, right? Most guys are not on the 15 side, but, for somebody like Michael, I think he's got another 5-10 years of fighting. But if he can continue to do the death stuff, and he does want to do color commentary, I don't think he's been shy about making that known that that's a goal of his. It's just on us to try to help him achieve those goals, just like we try to help him achieve the goals, in the octagon.
Yeah, speaking of goals in the octagon, obviously a big main event for him. He's 3-0 since moving up to welterweight. Looked great there. What kind of differences do you see in him fighting at 170 and compared to 155, just in terms of preparation and the actual fighter himself?
I think him moving up to 170 allows him to spend the 8 weeks of fight camp not focused on just making 155. He can actually go in there and train for this specific opponent and, try to learn things throughout the camp instead of, I've wrestled my whole life. He's competed his whole life. Like, if you've ever been in a sport where you cut weight and you're not at the right weight class, you're basically spending your entire career trying to just diet down. And I think, we've seen a lot of fighters, not just Mike, we've seen a lot of fighters go up in weight class that make a little bit more sense, right? Jorge Masvidal, he's, had an amazing welterweight career since he's moved up. I think it helps these guys, and I think, the PI helps them also figure out what weight class is best for them, right? I think Mike being 6'3", cutting to 155 probably wasn't the smartest idea, but he was ranked at 155 and was doing so well at 155. It's hard to move away from that for a lot of these guys.
Yeah, totally. And obviously this huge main event with Magny, you don't want to look past the opponent ahead, but assuming he wins this fight, he's going to be on that upper tier of the welterweight division. And to me, that's one of the more challenging divisions to get a top 3 fight. Everyone's always calling out Masvidal or Colby or Usman and stuff. What do you think you have to do to break in and get one of those matchups for Mike after a win here?
Yeah, I think it's good that the division has a lot of names in it that people do want to fight, and you could say superstars in that division. I think for Mike, it's take the next fight for him. He gets past Magny, and he's called out Colby before. I could see him calling out Colby again. I don't know if that fight with Masvidal's done. I know it's probably what they want, and maybe they're waiting for Tough or whatever, but that's a fight that makes sense for us. I think the Wonder Boy fight makes sense for us. I think Leon Edwards makes sense. Somebody ranked above him is who he's going to want.
Yeah, totally makes sense. We're looking forward to that one. And then obviously kind of moving forward in March, we have the return of the champion on your roster, Petr Yan. Big fight against Aljamain Sterling. It got delayed a little bit. Just where is he kind of coming into that one? Is any of the issues that may have precluded that fight from happening when it was originally scheduled, is that all cleaned up and everything?
Yeah, everything sorted out. Peter went down to Miami and is training an American Top Team. We've got him sorted out with coaches there and living situation. I think the decision was made to move him down to Miami just because Thailand, where he's done all his camps, is closed. And not even just closed, but a lot of the fighters that were training full time there are no longer there. So he was lacking training partners there. He started a lot of his first 3-4 weeks of camp when we found out about the new March date. He started his camp in Russia, and I think it made sense to go down to ATT and acclimate to the U.S. a little bit better. He's fought in the U.S. before, and he's never had issues, but for a championship fight, and it's 5 rounds, and we got to be prepared for Aljo, and I think it made sense to send him down to American Top Team, and they got a great gym and great coaches, and he's really enjoying his time down there.
That's awesome. He seems like a great fit. And he's a guy that I feel like maybe people don't know him as the person super well yet, maybe just because the English barrier and stuff, but I think he does a great job on social media. Like, he's amazing there. Can you give us any insights? I mean, maybe some things that people may not know about Peter yet that you could share some revelations about him, what he's like?
He's got a real good, I think the problem, and you kind of hit on it, is the foreign fighters, they have a lot of banter in their own language. It's just trying to get them well versed enough in English, A, to interact with the fans, and B, to be able to banter back and forth with the opponents. I think we've seen him and Aljo have a really good banter back and forth, which a lot of people are interested in this fight. And people like Rafael Fiziev I get like messages every day about what a good follow he is, and obviously that goes back to Sayat and me and coaching these guys that, hey, you can't just be a fighter, right? Like, you have to have the fans want to either love you or hate you for whatever it is, right? Trying to get them English tutors, right? Like Loma Luke Boonmi, first Thai fighter in the UFC, really didn't speak any English a year ago. Right now, she can at least call me and have a conversation with me. Obviously, it's broken English. It's not great. Same with Peter, right? Like, and I think the problem is, or the biggest point with these fighters is making them realize that just trying is enough, right? Going in there and being able to say 10 words in English to the fans, like, that's enough for fans to get on your side and really support you.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. He's obviously on top of one of the most stacked divisions in the entire sport right now. Bantamweight's crazy. Of course, you want this run to go on forever, but does it excite you to know that he has a chance here to solidify himself as the greatest bantamweight ever with just some of these names that are rising up, and that must be very exciting, right?
Yeah, I think we'll see what, obviously we got to get through Aljo. No easy fight there. And I think, we'll see. TJ's coming back in February. We'll see what Henry does. Henry's always on Twitter talking stuff, but he's not fighting. So, and I think that'll also give some of these other challengers in bantamweight some time to really grow themselves.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing how that division shakes out. And you mentioned him, Rafael Fiziev. He's a guy that's really come in and got a lot of attention in just a few UFC fights. Tell us a little bit about him and how you plan on handling his rise, because it seems like all the potential is there, but still just only a handful of fights in MMA.
Yeah, I think he's only 8-1 at this point. Obviously Sayat is funny because Sayat and him were roommates, and he wasn't even signed to Ruby at that point. So obviously, it kind of made sense he signed to Ruby, and we got him that Titan fight in Kazakhstan. He had a highlight reel finish on there. And then, we took the Musafayev fight in the UFC, and, it's unfortunate that he got knocked out. I think that was a really good fight, and he just took a spinning back kick to the head, and it is what it is. Like, nobody's perfect except Khabib at this point. And I think his next 3 fights, he really showed what he can do. Obviously the Alex White fight was great. He had a really good performance, and then, the Jacasey fight is really what put him on the map, last Fight Island. And then, we asked for the Moicano fight, and I thought it made sense. Moicano was going back up to 55. It was a really good style matchup. I was worried if it went to the ground. Obviously, Rafael's working with the Hickman brothers with his wrestling, and at Tiger Muay Thai, he's the head kickboxing coach. But he's just so much fun to watch, and you see his patterns and how he moves in the cage, and I honestly don't even think we're seeing the tip of what he can do in the UFC. And I think for him, what makes sense next is one of these guys at a lightweight that come and stand and will stand in front of him, and Alex Hernandez, Ali Quinta, one of these guys. I know Alex already said no. He's got some injuries, and it is what it is. We'll see. I think he's hoping to fight in April before Ramadan.
Yeah, that'd be great to see him back there. And then another one I wanted to ask you about, Mackenzie Dern. Obviously, she's been sensational. She was in our discussion for comeback fighter of the year, just obviously at the time off having the baby and then the loss to Amanda. But she's come back so strong. Of course, a lot of that seemingly has come with her link with Jason Perillo, too, and working on the striking. Was that something that you kind of encouraged her to pair up with, or how, on your side, did that relationship form?
When she left the previous gym, she had reached out, and we talk. We always talk, and we kind of looked at some gyms in Southern California where she's living now. And it was funny because she, I mentioned Jason Perillo, and she's like, "What do you think Jason would train me?" And I'm like, "Yeah, of course. Like, why wouldn't he? And obviously Cheeto's there, and Luke Rockhold, and there's some other guys there. But they are a very small private gym. Jason's very particular. I think you've seen a huge improvement in her striking and her stand-up. She's more confident. She's more comfortable. Obviously, her bread and butter is the ground game. I think it's after that last fight with Verna, she was very, was it a good fight? Like, did I do a good job? And, like, the thing about Mackenzie is her name almost rushed her to get to where she is before, a normal fighter would have been allowed to grow a little bit more. There's not a spotlight on them. They can just fight, learn how to fight, get the wins they need to get in the UFC. And with her, it was, the goal was always a UFC, and it was always going to be UFC, but getting her to that point where she's comfortable taking a top 10, a top 5 fight, I think we've seen her to get to that point. Verna was an Invicta champ, so it's not like she was, she was 11-1 or 12-1 at that point when Mackenzie beat her. So, I think the matchup, the pairing with Perillo's been great. Obviously, her dad's doing her jiu-jitsu, and she's got a wrestling coach, and I think she's really becoming a complete fighter, and I think we'll really see, how good she really is against Nina in April.
Yeah. Have you seen a change in her focus as well? Like, obviously, early in the career, there was kind of the weight issues and stuff, but it seems like becoming a mother has really, really changed life for her.
Yeah, I think it settled her down a little bit. She's got a schedule now. She's, her husband and the baby, they go to the beach, and she goes and trains. They go to the beach. They relax. I think it's become, she's a full-time fighter now and a full-time mother, and she's doing what she needs to do to take care of her family. And I definitely think that her having the baby refocused her fighting career.
And you mentioned the fight with Nina. That's obviously coming up. Before Nina left to have her own baby, she was top 5 in that division at strawweight. A win over that. How far do you think Mackenzie is from a title shot? Do you think we could potentially see that this year?
If it was me, I'd have her fight Nina and win, and then maybe Tatiana if she's healthy. I think that's a great style matchup that a lot of people want to see. And then she beats Tatiana. I think she's next in line for a title fight.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Well, before we wrap up here, obviously you have a bunch of other clients that we haven't touched on. I don't want to make you, seem like you're picking and choosing. I'm sure you love them all the same. But is there anyone that people should keep an eye out for in 2021 that maybe is flying under the radar a little bit and you're particularly excited about?
I think the guys in the UFC, I think we're looking at like Ludwig Klein. Really, for me, I said for the last 2 years he's the best featherweight in Europe. And I think he really showed what he can do in Fight Island. And we're just waiting for Sean to give us a matchup for him. We were told March. Hopefully that's true. Hopefully we get something in March. And then Dracus du Plessis, South African middleweight. I think he was KSW champ. Has a win over Roberto Soldic. He's EFC middleweight champ. So I think he had a great fight against Marcus Perez in Fight Island. Like you said, there's just so many guys that we really are invested in, and the way I've kind of built the management company is trying to find the best fighters in every location, right, and trying to go after those guys. And obviously the UFC is a global company. They're not going to always have all American fighters, so trying to go out there and we got a couple good prospects coming up. guys in other organizations that we're building there, and champions and Brave, fighters and UAE Warriors, and a lot of guys in the Middle East that we're investing in. Just did a partnership with another manager in Europe to really try to build the brand in Europe. So yeah, I think it's been great. I think 2021 is going to be a good year.
Yeah, definitely. You have your toes in a lot of different corners of the world, so I think that's really exciting. And appreciate the time, man. Obviously, big main event coming up here on Fight Island, and looking forward to it. Thank you.